Yes, we are live. Okay. So, hello, 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 and welcome to my podcast, Me at Dark in Dark. Yes, so I love podcasting. It's something that I enjoy doing. However, I've been on sabbatical for a little while, and I had stopped podcasting for a little while because I just kind of wanted to regroup. Hang on a second. As I was saying, I love podcasting. It's something that I feel I have a calling to do, to share my story, to tell my story with the hope that it inspires other people to talk about my experiences. I also podcast when I'm going through something. It helps me get through the pain of things, or if I'm having a tough time, if I find that I have something to work through, podcasting has proven to be a very, very good channel to help me to in doing so. So I am coming back, and so this is kind of what the setting will be moving forward. You know, I'll come, I'll be kind of in the dark, listening to the sound of the birds, listening to the little fountain. You see that little light back there? It's so beautiful. I really like it. Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it? There it is. See this little light right here? It's so beautiful. Inside here right now, it feels so serene, so calm, so quiet. And what do I want to talk about today? Okay, so today I want to talk about letting go. Yes. Letting go is something we all have to do. We all have to face at some point in time in our lives. And today I specifically want to talk about letting go of something that feels really good. Something that you enjoy, something that maybe it is a case where you love to eat ice cream but you want to go on a diet, or you meet this really 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 nice guy and you make out with that guy and you feel like, oh my gosh, I want to do this every day, but there is no possibility of a relationship there for whatever reason, right? For whatever reason. Let's say maybe the person was visiting a country and they had to leave, or whatever, for whatever reason. Or let's say you went somewhere and you really enjoyed it. You're at a hotel and you have to leave, and you have to leave behind all the wonderful treatments, all the things that made you really happy, but you have to let go. Letting go is not always the easiest thing to do. I find it personally, I find letting go very challenging. It's very hard for me. And especially when it's something that I really, really like. And I just want to share an experience I had. There's this guy that I met. He is an amazing human being. And we had a special day, like this one special day. And then I had to give him up because um, that the interaction we had didn't come with the requirements I would want to have in a relationship, like commitment, exclusivity, just different things. We weren't at the same place at the same time. And so I had to give him up. And, I had to, I made a commitment to myself and I said, you know what? You're going to have to do this by any means necessary, because you have to let go, no matter how amazing it feels, no matter how good it felt. And I think what happens is, right, sometimes I don't even know if it is that the thing was so good or great. I think it's the stories, it's the concept of it that we create in our minds. It's when we tell ourselves, "Oh my God, this is amazing," because really we are the ones interpreting what we're feeling. We're the ones who who's writing the story. It's us that's writing the story, right? So how can we really say that um it's as good as we think it is? Do you know what I mean? So I think um before we can even start talking about letting go, I think I'm going to talk about three different steps, I think, or three different considerations when it comes to letting go. Three different things that may make it easier or may help in the process of letting go, right? So the first one I'm talking about is, what is the story that we tell ourselves about this thing? Are the stories that we're telling ourselves about this thing true? Is it really true? When I say this guy was perfect, was he really perfect? Or did I perceive him to be perfect? I wanted him to be perfect. So in my eyes, he was perfect, right? What are the stories that we're telling? Because if it's not working out, if it is it the ideal? If it's not meeting my requirements, is it the ideal? Right? So sometimes we tell ourselves we make up the stories in our minds, and we determine that this thing is amazing, it's wonderful, and based on the story that we make up, the story that we tell, the story that we have in our minds, letting go can become even more challenging, right? It can become even more challenging for us because of the story that we make up. So we have to be, I'd say, careful of the stories that we tell ourselves. Um, one moment. We have to be, ooh, I'm right. We have to be very careful of the stories that we tell ourselves, because sometimes it's not that the thing is hard or difficult or that we can't get past something. But sometimes it's the story that we tell ourselves that makes it difficult for us to act in our own best interest, if you know what I mean, right? We tell our story that we tell ourselves that, oh my gosh, this is so perfect. I can't let it go. I don't want to lose it because it is so perfect. I want to keep it. But when you really do an assessment, was it perfect? Was it really perfect? Are you sure? Or are you just concluding or writing the story that way to say it's perfect, right? That's the first one that I want to so in letting go, we need to not tell ourselves the stories, but we need to see things for what they are, because what we tell ourselves about the thing will cause us to hold on and sometimes make it difficult to let go. So we have to be true to ourselves about the story that we tell ourselves about this thing or this experience we had that we are having a hard time in letting go. So number one is, what's the story that you're telling yourself about the thing that you need to let go, right? So I'm talking about three things that can help us or can make the process of letting go easier. And the first one is, what's the story that you're telling yourself about this thing? Is it a story you've made up in your mind based on your own perception? Or are you speaking the facts as they are about the situation? Because chances are, if you have to let something go, it means it's not for you. It's not meeting some kind of need. So make sure you're telling yourself the true story about it, because how the story you tell will make it either difficult or easy for you to let go. So that's number one. Number two, one of the things I'm learning to consider when letting go is, and it's not so easy, but it's knowing that the universe loves me, right? And if it's meant for me, if it's good for me, then I wouldn't be losing it. So I have to help myself understand that I have to prioritize myself. So one, I have to be careful of the stories I tell myself about this thing. And number two, I have to prioritize myself, right? Because if this thing that I'm seeking to let go, that is, it's a challenge for me to let it go. If this thing was good for me, if it was the best thing for me, if it was meant for me, then I wouldn't need to let it go. So the fact that there's a need for me to let it go means that it is not for me. And why would I want to keep something that's not for me? Why? Right? So one, be careful of the story you tell yourself about it, making it perfect in your own mind, even though the experience itself, the truth of the experience wasn't perfect. But we tell ourselves it was perfect, right? Number two, we've got to prioritize ourselves. It cannot just be that, oh my gosh, I miss it so much. I wish it would have stayed. I don't like the rejection. I don't like to feel abandoned. So it's hard for me to let this thing go. You've got to prioritize yourself. You have to know that. If this was best for me, if it was meant for me, it would not be going anywhere, right? And the last one I want to leave with you is boomerang, is what they call it. There's some times in life that you have to release something for it to, on its own, come back to you. Letting go is never a loss. It's never a loss, right? Releasing something, when you release something back into the universe, right? That thing gets to be free, right? That thing gets to be its own, to be on its own and to do its own thing and to live in its own way and be happy, right? So it's almost like letting go. Sometimes it's like it's an act of love to let go. It is. It's an act of love to release, and put it back out there and trust that it will come back if it should. Because sometimes we get something, but it's not the right time, or we get it, but we weren't prepared for it, or we get it, but we were not equipped for it, right? Like I feel, this is how I feel about the guy I met. I felt like, you know what? I don't think I was equipped for this. I don't think I was ready for it. Because I was learning so many things during the process. I learned so much, and I felt like, wow, I have so much to learn, right? And so I feel like boomerang, release with grace and release easily, and allow things to go because it will bounce back if it should. It will come back if it should. But more importantly, like when we release something, it's an act of love, I believe, that we're actually demonstrating to say, you know what? I'm going to let you go. If this is not where you're happy, if this is not where you're at your happiest, if this is not fulfilling you, if this here doesn't make you feel as happy with me as I feel with you, then I release you. I release you back to the universe. And I trust the universe that if you are supposed to come back, then you will. You will, because sometimes you have to let people go and let things go. For example, people, sometimes you have to let people go for them to see your value. Sometimes when you're so available to people, they miss your value. Like we're taken for granted. It's like us. We do that to other people too. We have them, so we just take them for granted. Sometimes it happens. So sometimes you have to let people go. You have to release them, and they'll come back in their own time when they're ready, if it's meant to be. So three tips or suggestions or ideas that I've learned that helps me letting go. And number one is being mindful and thoughtful about what is the story that I'm telling myself about this thing. Am I speaking the truth of it, or am I just speaking the fantasy of it? Right? What I hoped it would be. What's the story that I'm telling myself? And number two, if it's meant for me, then it will be for me because the universe loves me and no good thing will it withhold from me. And number three, boomerang, release it. And if it belongs to me, it will come back. It sounds like number two and number three is the same thing. Number two, I don't remember what I said number two was, but number two pretty much was um, setting it free, setting that thing that you love. Was that it? I don't remember. Anyway, thank you for listening. And I hope that this little chat that I had on letting go. It's just really what I'm learning. And because letting go for me has been really challenging because I'm a child of abandonment and neglect and rejection. So every time, especially when people come into my life, I just want to hang on to them. I want to hold them. I don't want to let them go. I want them to stay forever. And I'm learning that I can't necessarily treat people that way. My job is to love them. And if my love is something that feeds their soul and they decide to stay, then fantastic. But if my love does not feed their soul, and if my love is not sufficient for them, and if my love is not enough, right, then it's in love that I should let them go, right? So I hope that if you have to face the challenge of letting go, whether it's of a thing or of a person, I hope that the conversation here today will prove useful to you. I hope it was helpful. it definitely was something that was helpful for me. And that's why I decided, you know what, I'm going to share it, because letting go sometimes can be so challenging, so emotionally draining. So I just want you to know that you are strong, you're bold, you're capable, and you are enough, you are sufficient, you are worthy. So if you have to let go, it's not because you're not good enough. It's because whatever it is needs release. That's it. It's not about you. The thing that you're letting go, that's what needs the release. Nothing is wrong with you. So as I go, I just want to leave this message with you. Positive mind, positive, positive vibes, positive life. I'm Coach Raquel. Thank you for listening. Bye.